So, how y'all doing? It's Jared. This is a 950 Rift 1801. It's the SHOT Show knife for 2018. Every year, Benchmade does a limited edition run of one of their production folders for the SHOT Show, just like an advertising thing. And this one here is actually, it's really cool because you can see it's blue G10 and carbon fiber layered together, which is actually, I'm not too familiar with the composite of both of those materials in the same handle scale. So it's actually really cool. It gives a really nice effect. It does have an upgraded steel S30V opposed to the 154 cm of the original. You can see they did limit it to 800 pieces, which is actually interesting because it's a little bit less than a lot of the other SHOT Show knives. This is the only Rift that I own. I haven't actually managed to purchase the general Rift, the -1 model with the black handles, or the gray and black handle on the original model. And I like this knife. It's got a really good ergonomics. I'm not a fan of the blade shape. I'm just not the biggest fan of a reverse Tonto. It does have its utility. It's definitely got its place in the knife kingdom, wherever you want to say. But I mean, I'm just not the biggest fan of it. And this one's weird. You can see that it starts out really broad, especially because of the way this plunge grind is done. You can see that sharpening choil, I guess is what you could call it, comes all the way down. And so it gives the profile of the knife a really wide profile starting out. And then it tapers down to actually create that tip. And so it almost looks like a sheep's foot. This is like a sheep's foot reverse Tonto, which is cool, you know what I mean? I definitely am a fan. I can see the utility behind this blade shape, but it's just nothing ever that really thrills me. I'm kind of mad at this knife though, because I went in there to buy the 417 Fact. This is the second time I've gone into a store to buy a 417 and seen something else in there. They're like, oh shit, I need that one, and I walked out with this. I paid $269 for it, which is actually a pretty good price. You can find it for about that online if you can find one. When this comes out, when this video comes out, they're actually still available. Quite a few of them are available on different retailers online, but they're probably not going to last. And when they're gone, they're going to be gone because there is only 800 of these actual models here with this specific scale setup. And I like it, you know what I mean? But it's interesting, the last 3 years, that's the 1801, this is the 1701, it's a 707 sequel. It's a SHOT Show knife for 2017. And then the SHOT Show knife for 2016 is this volley right here. This is a 1,001,1601 volley, right? CM390 upgraded steel on there, and they're all blue. And so it's going along with that Benchmade blue. You know what I mean? That classic Benchmade blue. It's just really thrown in there, and I definitely like it. The only other SHOT Show knife that I've actually got is the 1301 here, which doesn't fit that profile because you can see this is a black, kind of a black and almost brown layered G10 with red barrel spacers on this scriptillion, and this was a SHOT Show knife from 2013. And honestly, it's probably my favorite out of the bunch of these SHOT Show knives. Maybe not, maybe this little sequel right here. I don't like the sequel, it's just too damn tiny, but that's a really pretty knife. And so they really nailed it with this. It's got an excellent aesthetic view. It looks amazing in the sunlight. I'm not the biggest fan of the shape, the blade shape. The Rift, this is my only Rift. I haven't actually managed to pick me up a different, classic Rift or the -1 model, the black handle or a black and gray handle on the original, but it's got a weird blade shape, doesn't it? It starts out so broad and then comes down, and it's the way that it sweeps down. It almost looks like a merging between like a reverse Tonto and a sheep's foot, doesn't it? And I can see somebody really loving this blade shape, just aesthetically and actually functionally, because it is going to function quite well. It's got a full flat grind up until this point here, where it'll function as a full flat grind, right up until you can see the flat of the blade actually starts. And so it's got a really good slicing profile. It is a relatively thin blade, especially I think it's 0.144 inches, so it's a relatively thin blade stock, which leads to this really high grind, really high saber grind they've got on it, coming down to, it's got excellent geometry right there behind the edge. And so it is a good design. I'm just not really the biggest fan of it. I can't say that this is something that I'm gonna, I would pick up, but having it in my hand, actually playing with this one here, because I had to buy this, I mean, it's the SHOT Show knife for this year. You can see 532 out of 800, and it's interesting that they actually only made 800 of these production runs, because what is this one? Let me see. I think this one's 750. Yeah, 750 of the Griptilian were produced. And then in 2017, last year, they had 1,000 of them to produce. Yeah, 1,000 of them on there. And so the numbers actually change. I don't quite know why that is, but there's only 800 of these things out there. And when this video is actually going to be posted, They are still available. You can still find these online, but if it's a little bit in time forward and they actually sell out, they're going to be gone. You know, there's only so many of them out there. Probably going to go into a lot of collections. I can imagine a few people are going to be carrying this. I did actually carry this thing around today, and I beat up the pocket clip a little bit. You can see some scratches in the pocket clip there that actually came from my pen, my Benchmade tactical pen. And so that's probably the only time I'm ever going to carry this thing. It is going to be just a save queen for me. I'm going to stick it in the safe and just look at it like ooh and ah, and every once in a while pull it out and play with it. But I really like that blue and black layered carbon fiber and G10. It's a blue carbon or blue G10 and then a black carbon fiber on this handle, and it's actually one of the only times that I've seen this specific composite of these two materials working together in a singular scale. And so it's really a cool design. I like the fact that they put these two materials together. I have no idea what that does as far as the rigidity of the material, but seeing how this is 420 J2 stainless steel liners that have been black coated, so stainless doesn't really matter, and they're non-skeletonized, and so the rigidity of the knife really doesn't come into play when you're talking about these handle scales here. But I am still curious on what this material, how, is this more rigid than a normal carbon fiber? How is this going to break? If I took this scale and broke it in half, how would it break? What would it do? And it really makes me curious on the dual material in this handle, but it definitely gives a good effect. It's a good looking knife. I think it's really pretty. I'm definitely glad to have this one in my collection, and I like this little thing. The best thing about this whole knife, the actual rift in itself, not this edition, but the actual rift in itself, is this little shelf right there for my pinky. You can see when I wrap my hands on there, it gives a whole lot of security and control to the actual design of this knife. I can place it, because I'm using my pinky to actually orientate the blade, and it gives a little bit of stoppage protection as well, because of the lack of jimping actually on this model here. The rift doesn't have any jimping on it, but that little swell right there on my pinky actually does work kind of like a pistol grip. If you're familiar with a pistol grip on a pistol shaped knife, the 747, what is it? Yeah, 747 mini onslaught, and I think it's the 740 onslaught. That kind of pistol-shaped grip, it's reminiscent of that. It's not shaped like that, but that's what it kind of feels like in my hand. I've definitely got a lot of stopping protection on penetrating through the back of this handle, which is definitely, it's an interesting design. It's got a lot of utility to it. I can see somebody really loving this blade shape, but the way that it's fat up here and it just kind of swells down, and I'm just not really the biggest fan of it. I've never been the biggest fan of a reverse Tonto, honestly. And I like the way that this plunge grind is done. I like the way that sharpening choil is done, because you've got a whole lot of beard sticking off the end of this knife, which lets you come down and you can actually get a good edge on here. It's not going to be the best for cutting material. You're probably going to snag in there. I can see that hooking on stuff, trying to cut into something, you miss a little bit and hook it on that edge right there. It's not the best thing out there, but it does allow you to get a full sharpen, actually, a full level edge on that actual blade itself, so on your cutting edge there. So I definitely really like that. I like the way that the thumb studs are done. Kind of a proprietary thumb stud to the Rift design. Blade centering on this model is just a bit off to the non-show side. You can see that there, but it does function flawlessly. It runs really good. There's no blade play in it. And the edge grind here, look at the symmetry of this edge. If you're familiar with Benchmade knives, they've had a problem with actually symmetry on the edge grind. The secondary edge bevel there, they've had some problems with getting it symmetrical, but you can see here it is actually relatively symmetrical. And so I was really impressed with this knife. I think they put a little bit of extra time and effort into it, which is important for the SHOT Show knife, limited edition. I definitely like that. So this is just an extra little additive to my to my collection. I will have a 417 closed, damn it. I will have a 417. I'm going to stick it in my boot. I'm going to be doing a review on that one in a little bit when I can actually manage to get my hands on one, but yeah, I like this. It's pretty. That's it. Limited edition 950-1801 Rift from Benchmade. Y'all have a good one.